Hi, and welcome to another installment of Conservative Chic Podcast. Today is a very special one as we honor our veterans, but also honor a unique feature here in my area of Siouxland called Freedom Park. And I'm honored to speak to a member of the board, Marty Hogan, who's going to talk a little bit about this special place. Thanks for joining me, Marty.
Thank you for having me.
And the first question I have is for those of you who don't know, for those of them who don't know what Freedom Park is, can you kind of tell us a little bit about what Freedom Park is?
Sure thing. We're nestled in the northeastern corner of Nebraska in South Sioux City. The location was selected many years ago by a couple of people sitting around what used to be, well, it's four brothers now. I think it was Tony Roma's at that time.
Oh wow, it's a lot.
And they kind of hatched that little idea. I was clear back in 2007. Al Bankston and Mike Newhouse,
Hmm.
Mary Gannan. It all came out of the traveling wall when it came to South Sioux City.
Hmm.
They had an idea to create their own Haskell rep. Well, at that time, they didn't know they were going to do a Haskell. They weren't sure what they were going to do.
Hmm.
Um, and through lots of discussion, and they put together the first board. And I think there was like 25 people on that board. There was a lot of movers and shakers, people from the 185th all the way through businesses in South Sioux City, and North Sioux. When we speak of the Freedom Park, we say Siouxland. We mean all three states. You know, we're right there where all three states converge within a few miles. So we always make sure, the veteran area that we like to use is about a 50 to 75-mile radius. So that's kind of when the land itself was donated by the city of South Sioux City. Right down there along the river. It's one of the high points too. When it flooded in 2011, the soccer fields were underwater. If you remember, the Freedom Park didn't get wet at all. Um, the ground out there when we first started was very hard, very gumbo would be a good way to, we started digging for foundations and stuff. When we built the running track that went around, that was built in 2017 or 18. When we put that in, that was for the Remembrance Run. I used to be the director for that. And that was kind of one of our first vehicles to help raise money and awareness that the park was coming. COVID kind of took us off our game.
Hmm.
2020 was a hard year. It's hard to ask for donations when people aren't working.
Right.
Uh, plus you can't build anything. And after I started the Remembrance Run in 2010. So I got involved in the park in 2009. Was approached by one of the commanders out at the 185th, and they were on the board, and they
Hmm.
had an idea, and they knew I was a big runner at the time, and they knew that I'd always kind of talked with John Sandman, who is now passed, but we kind of put together the run, and we went for 10 years, and we raised just under 100,000. After COVID released its grips on us, we reformed the board, and that was where you saw the military balls coming back.
Hmm.
And those are our big fundraisers now. And we always try to pick a theme for each year. This year, as we were talking offline, was for the covering for the shelter for the Freedom Rock.
Hmm.
We did raise enough to do all that. We've been very frugal, and I had a little bit in the pocket before all that started.
Hmm.
So we're in good shape there. I'm hoping, and it's always weather dependent. Everybody's like, when do you have to start working on it? Well, it can't rain, it can't snow.
Hmm.
We're digging foundations for it. And this covering, uh, this covering is going to look like when we're deployed. It's going to look like a tent when you're deployed. So
Okay.
it's got to withstand,
Hmm.
high winds, 80 to 100 miles an hour sometimes. Uh, so, like I said, there's a lot of projects in motion. When the
Hmm.
park first started, uh, there is a concept. We tried to stay as true to that as we possibly could.
Hmm.
Cost overruns, hurricanes, driving up the cost of materials, now tariffs. It just makes things a little more difficult. So when you when you budget and it says 150,000 when you start, when you finish, you're like, that was like $400,000.
Mm-hmm.
There's always cost overruns, and you always find things that are not expected. Just like when you're building a house, when you're doing something, there's always an issue,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to mitigate it somehow. And usually, it's
Mm-hmm.
time and money that do that.
Yep. Absolutely. And you said you got involved early with the run. What has been I know it's been kind of crazy with some of the things that they have done and the speed that they have done some. It looks like it's just a lot of people from who are not on the board might think it's fast, but for the board members are like, oh, we need to keep doing this fast. But it is really unique and really exciting. What has been one of your favorite things have you've been a part of? I mean, you've been a part of it since almost the beginning, but
Yeah, I think it was, I could speak to each one of the displays that we have out there. They all have uh, probably 2 to 3 years in building them. Um, the Interpretive Center, I remember when we started on that, I was in 2014,
yeah.
when they started laying foundation and everything.
Mm-hmm.
The wall was being, dedicated. Uh, and, but when the building, the outside portion of the building was done, but it sat for several years. Everybody when they're driving by, well, I don't really need to donate any money. The building's done. There
Yeah.
wasn't anything in there other than sheetrock, buckets of nails, and
Mm-hmm.
wiring everywhere. And that was one of the parts, the revitalization of the board, really started getting the word out. And really, uh, the Freedom Rock came out of my wife and I do Iowa trips every year, and I was
Mm-hmm.
posting them on Facebook. People started commenting and said, "Hey, could we bring one of those to the park?" We were actually just outside of Des Moines at the time, and I called Bubba's number, and
Mm-hmm.
it's on the website, and I talked to his wife, and she said we'd love to. So we were the first rock in Nebraska, but that was probably 2 years in the making, and that actually, I don't know if you've ever heard me tell a story before, but you hear people complaining about big rocks all the time in their fields, and
Mm-hmm.
then when you need one, it's like, I don't know where we could find a big rock.
Right.
So, and then when we found it, it's like, okay, now we got a 20,000 plus pound rock. How do we move it to this
Oh,
pad? And it was, and I was actually in Des Moines at the time. I was assigned to JFHQ for COVID. And
oh, okay.
so I was doing a lot of coordination over Zoom meetings and phone
Mm-hmm.
calls. And, it's really hard when somebody goes, well, what is the area? I don't know. I'm not there,
Yeah, it's hard to
and
say. Like I'm not
yeah, and you're playing third person a lot on that, but
yeah,
that and that was a pretty rewarding project. But again, the A7 was a long time.
that was
Uh,
so cool.
I it is, and the Martin family was very generous with us. They helped us out however they could.
Mm-hmm.
I've known JP was a pilot out at the base, and
Mm-hmm.
but I grew up with him. We played ball together when we were just wee lads over by Briar Cliff.
Mm-hmm.
So each one of the projects has a huge part of all of us, really. But I think the most rewarding one was when we did the exhibits. Um, as you know, we took all the things that are in the exhibits from interviews that the South Sioux City High School had done. So I got to listen to all that.
Mm-hmm.
I transcribed a lot of it. I learned a little bit about the kids that were in the class asking questions, and they asked really good questions. They were very uh, inquisitive, which, on a day where people think, they're not paying attention, they were asking some very good questions. Um, and then, when we opened that day, and myself, Melissa Lanzaroskis, and Lori Risdall, we had talked or sat with every one of those veterans when we took those artifacts, either with the veteran or if they had passed with their family. So there were times, I'd tell my wife, hey, I got to run over here, and I'll be back probably within 45 minutes to an hour. And there were times it was 4 or 5 hours. I mean, you'd sit there and start talking to people. And,
Mm-hmm.
being a veteran myself, some of the stories that you are listening to, and and I'm a war buff, so World War II, Korea, Vietnam, all those guys, they have stories they haven't really told sometimes.
Right.
And you always hear that. There were times where we were sitting with people and their family was there, and they're like, I never heard that story before. And he goes, well, you just didn't ask the right questions, or, I just didn't feel like talking about it. Now this makes me, so that was very rewarding for me. And, when we open the doors, you have a guy that special forces or infantry in Vietnam, and they come up and they give you a hug and they're crying. They're 70 plus years old and they're thanking you. And I'm like, I didn't do anything. All I did was coordinate where to set your stuff.
Mhm.
And but that I think, and again, it's really hard to pick just one: the Korean War Memorial, the
Mhm.
Vietnam Wall, and now, the things that we're working right now, each one of those has, a special place. We're expanding the board a little bit.
Oh,
We're trying to get new and fresh ideas. We just took three new board members last meeting, and we brought two more on board earlier this year as well.
yeah, that's fantastic. And I really relate to with visiting with veterans. My grandmother was a child of 19. She had 18 siblings, and she had nine brothers, and all nine of them served in military and different
Oh,
branches.
wow.
And
Well, thank
so
your family for their service too.
yes, it was thank you for yours as well. And it was just so neat. But my uncles were very reserved, my great uncles. They didn't talk a lot about serving. I did have a great conversation with one of my uncles that served in Italy and was a parachutist and would be one of the people that would push the parachuters out of the planes when they were resistant on doing so. So he opened up, but I didn't find out, my other uncle, I didn't find out till after his death that he had a Purple Heart. And he never told anybody about it. His family knew,
Yep.
I'm sure his immediate family knew, and my grandmother knew, but I was like, I never knew that. And I wish I would have known that before he passed. But there's certain stories that, I mean, going through that, what they have seen, what they have witnessed, going through that is hard for them. And so I love the fact that you also are doing recordings where they can come in and talk and speak about their experiences so that they're family who they, can listen to that and really kind of have a firsthand account of what they went through. And sometimes it can also be therapeutic as well. So I love what you're doing with that. And and um and I just want to say, like, what can visitors expect when coming to Defina Park? You kind of talked about it a little bit. We have the replica of the Korean War Memorial, the replica of the Vietnam Memorial, but there's so much to offer. Can you talk a little bit about what we have, what you have to offer, and what visitors can expect?
Sure. Yeah, and our exhibits are a little bit unique where everything is local veterans. It's all tied to local veterans. There isn't anything in there. There isn't an item that we said, hey, this will fit in the Vietnam section. Let's take that and just add it in.
Mhm.
If there's a map there, it's a map that those guys carried around while they were in the field,
Mhm.
or it's a facsimile of it that we scanned. And we stayed true to that the whole time. We get offers of donations of collections and stuff all the time. I hate turning people away. I
Yeah.
have about 3,500 square feet that I can use for display stuff.
Mhm.
And when we do a display, it's not going to be changed out later. It's
Right.
not cost effective for us to do that. So what we're trying to do is add things as we go that enhance what we already have.
Right.
Um, you know, it is, and it's difficult when you're putting, um, and I guess I should start at the beginning when we first asked for items.
Mhm.
We didn't ask well. We had a lot of people helping, and it's great, but
Mhm.
we didn't have any coordination to it. So we had, an 80-year-old vet calls and says, hey, I have a uniform from this era. Do
Mhm.
you want it? Yes, we do. We'll take pictures of it and get back to you. And some of them, it was 2 or 3 years before we sat down one day and said, hey, we've got too many people, too many fingers in the cookie jar. So, like I said, Lori, Melissa, and myself said, we'll take on this little project. That was more than a little project. When I retired full time from the base, I pretty much went full time into, getting exhibit stuff and working with Blue Water was our contractor, and
Mhm.
during that time they'd been sold a few times, so we were working not with our original group, but subgroups on the outside, which made that a little more difficult because there was a lot of handshake deals. Yeah, we'll do that for you, those people were no longer there, so we had to go by the letter of the contract, and you know we bartered our way back into some of them as best we could, and we came up with what you see each day you're there. So I always tell people when they say what should I expect, and it's different for each person. If you're a war buff, you can learn, you could stay
Mhm.
there all day long and not ever. um, we try to have our docents, we try to have them have some military background. We love it when the vets come in. A lot of them are like, hey, I don't know what I'm doing. It's like we got a little direction book. Your biggest thing is talking to people.
Right.
One of the tenets when we put it together is education, not just honoring people, but educating people.
Mhm.
And I know you've heard me speak about this before. One of the things that we stayed very true to as well is we wanted this not just to honor these people, but to show people in our area what the sacrifice that our populace made to every conflict that
Mhm.
America has been in. I'm working on a Civil War thing right now, and I'm having a hard time getting some stuff. But the individual was from Dakota City, so and I haven't
Oh.
had a lot of time to work on it. I've been doing quite a few other things, so and I want to give it the due diligence to do the right thing. We've got some World War One artifacts that we're going to try to put together here soon,
Neat.
and those are terrific. We've got a gas mask, a field kit, the whole 9 yards. So
Oh,
these things
wow.
are over 100 and some years old. And the family that donated it was there. I talk to them now and again, and I'm like, every time I get some traction, the shelter comes up, the A7 comes up, and
Mhm.
the A7 was time consuming just because of all the entities involved.
Right.
We,
Mhm.
the Army Guard, and the Air Guard, we just can't thank them enough. I mean, the paint booth out at the unit, for us, it was, that's where the A7 belonged. No one ever knew it until,
Mhm.
we sat it down there. And if you look at how it points, we tried to guesstimate as best we could that it's pointing right towards the base. So it's always looking towards home.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I didn't think of that. But yeah, that's right. Right when it came, like after it got set and the cameras were away and everything that evening, we went down and we went and looked at it
Yep.
like right away. Because it was just, it's
I,
such a neat place,
it's,
but that is just like, it brings you to the park, but it also kind of brings the park together. It kind of symbolizes everything that the park
yes.
stands for.
And in our area, a lot of people aren't aware, and we want to tell that story as we keep going. But we were a training base in World War II. Jimmy Stewart trained here. Louis Zamperini trained here.
I didn't know that.
Um,
Wow.
and those are things that we would like to highlight. And I've been kind of looking for stuff. I can find pictures and things like that, but I like artifacts to tell a story.
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
know, when a child sees something, when I was little, if you see a weapon or you see a map or you see a pair of boots, you're more inclined to ask a question. It's like, oh yeah, there's a picture. I can read the description underneath it.
Mm-hmm.
And so we looked for things that would create conversations. Like I told you with the families when they were sitting there, I never knew that. It started a conversation for them that was different for each person. So to go back to your original question too, what do people expect? It's kind of what you bring in. Haunted house. Some people are scared. They squirt water at you, and some people,
Mm-hmm.
so.
That's an
But
extra.
it's a different experience for everybody, and part of it too, the walkway that goes around there. It's very quiet. In the spring and summer, it's very green.
Mm-hmm.
It's you have four outdoor exhibits, five outdoor exhibits right now. You got the dog park.
Mm-hmm.
That was the original big, project they put in.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Chan Duandara did a great job with that. It was, and the statue that's out there, the trail system that runs through there, the bike system
Mm-hmm.
pretty much connects all of South Sioux and now pretty much into Sioux City,
Mm-hmm.
which you can also go into North Sioux City.
Mm-hmm.
So you have so much, the Freedom Rock has benches for people to sit on and reflect.
Mm-hmm.
You have the gazebo that's out there. You have the Korean War Memorial. And we're working on things to enhance each one of those. Now we just started. about 4 months ago. We started the brick dedication wall.
Mm-hmm.
We got one of those walls is half complete, and we're waiting. We have more bricks to put up, but you have to keep the pattern.
Mm-hmm.
So to keep the pattern, we have to wait for just a few bricks short of one row. And you don't want to hodgepodge at the top. You want to keep them congruent. And I think the more people see that, they'll start purchasing those. And those, I don't think those are huge money makers for us, but my wife bought me one and put it up there. But for me, when I go out there and I see the people some of them that I served with, or some of them even the guys that we went and talked to for the exhibit, it's just kind of a going back to your first question. That's also rewarding too, because
Right.
there's two or three guys that I had worked with on different projects over
Mhm.
probably the last 15 years that are no longer with us, and one or two of them didn't get to see it. Oh, and that's a regret. I mean, could we have moved faster? I don't think we could have moved faster. It's a
Right.
grassroots effort. We
Mhm.
didn't have like unlimited amounts of money or anything like that, and
Mhm.
had to stay in parameters and
Mhm.
buy stuff at I always like to say shopping at Kmart and Walmart for some things where and when you look at it, it really looks like we didn't really spare any expense. We did the best we had with what we had.
Mhm. And it is truly, for those of you who have not seen it, it is a must-see place. It's just, for me, it's emotional because my family has served. I had a grandfather that actually technically lied on so he could, about his age, so he can enlist, because he went
Yep.
to enlist with his big brother. I didn't know that until he started, as he got older and he was talking more about it. And I was like, oh, okay. But just to me, it was emotional just to see that and reflect on what they all went through and um, kind of thank them especially for me who I didn't really have to worry about anything till 9/11. 9/11 was when my generation really started to think about our security and not no longer take things for granted. And I remember my grandpa said, for me, it was Pearl Harbor. For you, it's 9/11. And
Yep.
that stuck with me. And that's why I always, anytime I can get involved in helping with veterans, my family is very invested in that. And so this was when I got involved with the Freedom Park and started doing volunteering, selling t-shirts and things like that. It's moving for me. It's personal, but it's the least I can do is what I feel like. It's the least I can do to help my community and help bring awareness to our veterans, their sacrifice, but also very important here locally. And so I really thank you for everything you've done for that. And you talked about some of the projects. How can someone who maybe wants to get involved in a freedom park? I know that you're asking for volunteers to give tours of the interpretive
Yep.
center, things like that. How can they get involved?
So right now, there's a couple different ways to do it. Big one is Facebook. It'll tell you how to go out and volunteer. They put a post out every week. We're only open on Saturdays right now, usually from 10 to 4 if we have enough volunteers. There's been a
Right.
few times we've not been able to open. We do have a full-time person working for us, but they're not really full-time, but they're pretty much working full time on our marketing and stuff like that. And then she helps out with several different things. Excuse me. If you go to Facebook or if you go to SiouxlandFreedomPark.org,
Mhm.
you can sign up as a volunteer on there. What we would like to do is we would like to diversify our board committees. So we've got a lot of projects that we want to do, but all those projects take time, money, and manpower.
Right.
Um, and we have people come to us, with great ideas. I people think I mean because I'm always like, I love the idea of fairies, but I need some manpower behind it.
Right.
There's,
Absolutely.
at the first part, there was only 9 of us sitting there,
Hmm.
and it's like, well, haven't you thought of this? Yeah, I thought of that, but I
Hmm.
also am about $500,000 short on this too. I
Right.
can't start another project until because what you wind up having is one of the expressions I like to say is we're building a house and we started with the roof.
Mm-hmm.
and we're trying to shove walls and windows and everything underneath it. So, and we're attacking things as we have the ability and the opportunity. And sometimes, you know, this one doesn't cost as much as this one, even though this one should be first.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so, like anything else, and most of us have served in the military, so we're used to doing more with less.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's been challenging at times, but you can see just walking through there the uniforms, everything that's sitting in there, and the projects that we're working on right now are not inexpensive. The shelter is $162,000 budgeted 2 years ago. Um, and I just talked to Dan Lee from Fort Neal the other day, and he said the tariffs have really jacked up a
Mm-hmm.
couple of the connectors that we need. And he said, which is going to drive the cost up.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes when we're asking for more for something, they're like, "Well, didn't you already raise money for that?" We did, but when the supply chain's locked up too, sometimes you still have to wait 6 months to a year to get something. We don't make anything in America anymore. All we do is we make people wine more. It's like, we really, I think we had it so good that um, I feel like when the wall fell back in the 80s, we were
Mm-hmm.
just like, oh, we're done. Let's just
Right.
hang out for a while. We allowed all of what we would have considered our near peers at that time or
Mm-hmm.
lesser peer. We let them all catch up with us and in some cases surpass us.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and not to get political, but China makes everything that we do, and
Mm-hmm.
nobody's like, well, I'll start my own company and do that. And nobody does that anymore.
Right.
There's no incentive to do it. You're taxed to death, and you
Right.
have to pay your help outstanding amounts of money.
Yep.
So it's, we've retarded our own growth in a way.
Mm-hmm. And it's just absolutely amazing what you have done with the funding. And that's why it's so
Yep.
important to if you can donate to the Freedom Park, please do so. Um, if you
Yes, we never turn a donation away.
right.
Nickel,
Mhm.
we're doing one of the schools is coming over, South Sioux City Schools, and
Oh,
they've done a penny drive. The first schools to do that was Ponca. They've done it
oh,
twice.
wow.
Um, and the Ponca schools were the first school that we had come through on a tour. I've probably done probably at least a dozen different tours. I like doing the kids. We just did Hunt Elementary from Sioux City last week.
Hmm.
Um, I was only there the first day. I had an engagement the next day, but we did kindergarten first, second, and third the first day, and then they did fourth and fifth the next day.
That's amazing. And that's definitely so enlightening for the kids because the kids will go back and tell their parents, like, guess what I did today? Guess what I saw? And it might be as simple as saying, I saw an airplane or
Yep.
and just something like that. But I just want to thank you for everything you did. Is there anything you want to add about the Freedom Park? I know that it's important to do donate
Sure.
and volunteer.
Um,
Anything else that you want to add?
yeah. And again, volunteers are our lifeblood. If we could get enough, we could stay open a couple hours in the evening during the week, but
Mm,
it's hard to maintain.
right.
Um, especially in the summertime or the spring when it's getting nice and people want to go somewhere. And, everybody wants to come to the park, but there's nobody to man the park. The Legion has done a great job. The city of South Sioux has done a great job. They're always helping out. Great West Casualty helps out a lot, and a lot of the different legions around the area, when they find out that we'll take everybody in to volunteer, a lot of them come out and they come back. A lot of them keep coming every weekend. But talk about future projects right now. Uh, I've had a few people come in, like I said, and a few things have been taken off of my plate, so I can do a few more robust things to projects I'm doing instead of being the jack of all trades and master of none. But we're working on 48 Willys Jeep that we're going to display out there. It's just going to be a static display.
Oh,
That was donated by the family of William Alquist. He's the one from World War One, and he is the original owner of that Jeep. And it was in a farm in the barn, and So we pulled it out of there, tires rotted off, and Fremont Tire and a few other places are helping us out there, put it back into looking shape. And then you'll see
Cool.
that being displayed out there hopefully by next summer. Um, Again, the shelter, we're working on the shelter.
Mm-hmm.
That should start. We were kind of hoping to pour some footings yet this year, but uh, Saturday, they're already talking about, it's going to snow. So we'll see how that goes. If not, we'll get on it in the spring as soon as we can.
Right.
Um, the sound studio will be dedicated on Veterans Day, and that's going to be huge. There will be a couple of us that go in and do test interviews first. We have, I don't know, at the ball, did you meet the World War II vet at the ball?
I did, yes. I
He's
was a
going to
little
be
bit.
one of them.
Oh, I mean, yeah, I was a little bit emotional when I met him. There was this, cause for me, it was like looking at my grandpa, like, cause he was, and I was just like, it's just what I mean, they're sweet people, they're kind, and you never can imagine lays underneath what they've gone through,
Right.
what they
And
experienced.
he had a terrific sense of humor.
He does,
Um,
yeah.
I I got a kick out of him the whole time. He talked to us for quite a while afterwards, and while
Neat.
he was standing there, I asked Mel. I said, "Hey, if our slots aren't open up, let's have him come in." She goes, "That's a great idea." She asked him, and he was like, "Oh yes, I will." And we also have a Korean War vet that a friend of mine hooked me up with, and uh, he'll be there that day. And then I think Mike Newhouse, we made Mike go first. And as you know, Mike's retiring.
Yes.
Um, and for me, I met Mike in, like I said, it was around 2009. I went over and I told him what we were going to do at the race, and he goes, "We'll take any help we can get."
Hmm.
And then when I told him a couple things that I was doing, I left some other boards that I was serving on so I could concentrate more on the park. And he goes, "Well, they've always considered you as a board member, but yeah, okay, we'll do it official." So
He's
that
like, you're
that
on
made him
tour,
feel
but
pretty good. Yeah, and and it's nice to have a say in something that's going to outlive you. It's going to be here for good. I've taken my family over, and kind of how you told your story about your grandfather. I
hmm.
never even really knew that my dad was in until he died in 92. And they had the flag, and I'm like, okay, it's like,
Hmm.
I didn't even know dad served. So
Right.
my older brother was in the Navy. My dad was in the Army during Korea from
Oh,
52 to 54.
that's
Um,
cool.
so, it wasn't something I aspired to. I just joined out of high school, and I just never left. Until I got too old.
Right.
And, so the best way to give back, when everybody thanks you for your service, it's like a lot, we just do our job.
Exactly.
Um,
That's what I
I,
hear all the time.
yeah, and I think most people kind of feel that way,
Mhm.
but these guys that we're talking to, and we're making sure that no one forgets them. Um, you know, I always the one thing that stood out in the interviews that I listened to,
Hmm.
when these kids would ask, "Where are you from?" "Oh, I'm from Decatur." "Oh, I'm from Ottawa."
Hmm.
And then they start asking when they joined. "Well, I was drafted.
Yeah.
I graduated from high school. I was 17. My mother had to sign for me. She didn't want me to go, but I I was out of high school and I was going to go the next year anyway."
Hmm.
Um, and then when they talk about their induction, they'll say, "The first time I ever left the farm is when I went to basic training."
Right.
And
Exactly. I hear
and
that
that
all the time. Hmm.
it is, and it's very, that generation speaks differently than the newest generation. I don't, and even when I was growing up, I joined in '84, and and my family didn't have a lot of money either, but we didn't moan and complain, but we also didn't have social media, and
Right. Hmm.
you just kind of made do with what you had, and kind
Right.
of enjoyed life as best you could. And
Hmm.
um, and I think that's what the park also pulls out. It pulls
Right.
out that historical
Hmm.
growth of America. And
Absolutely.
and everything is, as you work hard to make things easier for the next generation, some
Hmm.
things are just going to get lost along the way. It doesn't mean that they're good, bad, or anything else. It's just different.
Hmm.
Each generation has their own things to deal with. I think right now with everything the way the world is going right now, um, the old adage is learn your history so you don't repeat it.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
I think that's one of the things that we really, really need to hang on to. And that's where the park, I feel, comes in huge.
Hmm. And I think that's a great way to end. I only have like 2 minutes left on my thing, so I
Sure.
just would, I think that's a perfect way to end because I just think I can't say anything better than wrapping that up. Like that is what the Freedom Park represents is our history and to understand our history and to make sure that we don't repeat some of the dangers that have happened in the past and for us to be reflective and not take our liberties for granted. And
Right.
I feel that way every time I visit. Feel that way every time I talk to a veteran. It's just, if you haven't been there, please stop. If you can donate to it, I can't think of a better cause to donate. Visit freedompark.org, our
Yep.
Freedom Park, Siouxland Freedom Park on Facebook. Like, share,
Yep.
follow, and go from
Yep.
there. Thank you so much, Marty. You are amazing. We've known each other for a while, and I can't thank you enough for everything you've done for the park. It's been amazing. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. All right.
Thank you, Marty.
All right. Bye now.
Bye.